And welcome to the Talon Outdoor Show. I'm Charlie.
I'm JD.
I'm Fred.
I'm Captain Paul.
And I'm Grant.
Yeah, JD's already over here laughing. So we had a whole segment of the show before we started recording. Not by any mistake, just we started talking, and I had to put the.
Well, that's what
so
that's what we're here for.
down.
Y'all got to stop.
That's what we're here for. We're here to talk
about on the show. So
we just don't always work on yours and Grant's schedule. We're here to talk about things.
Well,
I'm just going to come in next time. I'm not going to say anything when I walk in the door. I'm just going to be quiet till we turn on the.
No, because we have to gauge what you're going to talk about ahead of time, because we can't just let you start talking, Fred. You got to get some of that out your system before we ever get there, or else
You're already
we'll be in
scared
trouble.
about the news I was about to share.
Uh-oh.
So, y'all know about Elvis.
Yeah.
You know, my iguana?
Elvis the iguana. Yeah.
So Elvis was not eating this week.
Uh-oh.
So, of course, my secretary freaking out because he's not eating, and I just thought, well, he's just not hungry. But she demanded that we go to the vet, to take Elvis to the vet. And there is a vet here that treats iguanas. And so we go to the vet, and the vet takes the iguana in a room alone without us. And the vet comes back and tells us that Elvis is a girl.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, he's been a boy for the last 10 years. What?
So Elvira got a new name.
I said, what conversation did you had with this thing to make it start identifying as a girl?
Uh-oh.
Because it's even got the goozle thing on its,
Yeah,
you know,
it
it looks like a boy. But now my iguana, I've got a trans iguana.
Oh, my Lord.
Do you know how?
So it really is a female iguana now?
That's what he says. And I'm like, well,
Okay.
the last time he was here, you told me he was a boy. What happened? I mean, you know.
Well, it could have been like a grouper.
So what's wrong with the iguana?
He's trans.
No. Seriously.
Would you eat if you were trans? I mean, I don't know. They still don't know what's wrong with him. They took some blood. We're supposed to find out Monday, but
maybe
he was pretty fired up when he got back. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder, do they lay eggs, whether like chickens, whether they've
Yeah,
been?
they do lay eggs like chickens, even if there's no male around. So
Well,
I
that
mean,
was my question.
so if we find an egg,
We'll know for sure.
we got a problem. I mean,
Or
Well,
dudes
there are animals in this world that can naturally transform from one side to the other
grouper.
without any help.
Fast.
And then they can fertilize their own self sometimes. I mean, it's immaculate,
Okay,
I
I'm
guess,
not-
but I mean, there's
yeah.
all kinds of stuff that goes on.
yeah, not in my office.
I'm sorry, Fred. You're just going to have to accept the fact that the world's different.
I mean, I'm not changing. I'm
Listen,
not
this
going
goes back
along
to
with this.
dinosaur days. This stuff's been going on.
You what-
That
you-
thing
you-
harkens from an age long before us
Yeah,
or
it
anything we
ain't
comprehend.
that far off from
You
being
are.
a dinosaur right now. Just looking at them things, they way down on
Man,
the.
what are those
You
things
watch. I'm going to
that?
get in there Monday morning. There's going to be a pride flag on his cage.
Yeah, only if you put it there. So what are those? All right. So I grew up seeing like lizards. You know, the ones that'll change colors,
green and
just
brown.
a regular old lizard.
Yep.
And that's all I knew was around here, lizards. During the mating season, they'll get the thing on their neck.
Yep,
you know,
the red.
Yeah, and they'll
Yeah.
bow up and do all this.
Goozle
Okay,
things.
so the other day, I mean, just like since I hadn't noticed it since I moved back home, got around Michael. There's these
Little light tan colored.
things that
geckos.
look like little Godzillas running around.
Yeah.
And I don't know what those are.
Are they gray with big heavy scales and stuff on them?
Well, not like scales, but like bumps and stuff on them.
ones
And
with
they,
the curly
they
tail.
bow up. They look like a little tiny iguana.
That is a fence lizard.
A fence lizard.
The gray colored, gray or blackish.
Well, they're
dark color.
brownish gray kind
Yeah,
of.
that's a fence lizard.
Yeah, I hadn't
They're
seen them
wicked
around
looking.
here.
They're native. They're native.
They are?
Yeah.
Because I didn't see them growing up.
Man, we had them all. We had so where I grew up in Gadsden County, we didn't have store bought fence posts. We had cypress or not cypress. We had fat lighted fence posts that my daddy bought off some guy that cut it out of Tate's Hill swamp down there.
That's it.
And so we had tons of fence lizard when I was a kid growing up because they liked those. They liked that fat lighted fence post that had all the contours and stuff in it where they could get in there and hide. But yeah, that's fence lizard.
Okay.
We also have we got skinks, red-headed skinks.
Yep.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, that's that thing right there is what you're talking about?
Yeah, that thing.
So eastern fence lizard. I had no idea.
I don't know.
And all you had to do was ask me.
But I tell you
That's
what,
right.
they
JD
look
knows.
cool.
Encyclopedia
cool. Oh,
JD.
I've never thought much about a
They
lizard.
have-
I don't
they're-
pick them up, play
they're-
with them.
they're,
That thing right there, they're crawling around on the tractor and stuff.
Yeah.
And I looked over there and I was like, oh, jeez,
Well,
what in the world?
If I remember right, their goozle thing, whatever you call that piece of skin that they bow up,
Yeah.
the males is blue, if I'm
Really?
not mistaken, instead of red like the Carolina areole or whatever it's called, or the green lizards. And we also have the redhead skinks or blue tails.
Oh, they're
Yeah, they're
skinks.
nasty.
Yeah,
I ain't never
no,
liked
those
them
things
things.
are creepy.
Yeah, they are.
And we
They're
got
like
the-
leg snakes with legs, little short,
Yeah.
stubby snakes with legs running
well,
around. And like,
the big old,
get on away
the
from me.
males, they got a big old red,
Yeah.
big
Yeah,
old red
yeah,
head
get
on
on
them.
away from
Them
me.
things,
Imagine one of them things bites you. It hurt.
that make you leave the garage.
I wonder if those
Those-
are poisonous.
No,
Yeah.
No, what about these? Can I
No.
pick this thing up and play with
they're
it?
not poisonous.
Right.
The only
'Cause they sure
poisonous.
come find me now. And they
The only-
kind of freak me out because I don't
Yeah.
because it looks when I first see it. Now I see a lizard, the old green lizard that looks like a grass snake or something.
Mm-hmm.
If it looked like any kind of snake, it's a grass, which doesn't scare me. I mean, it would spook me a little bit, but I don't
Yeah,
like snakes.
I've seen you jump.
But these dadgum things look like a sure enough snake when you first see them. If there's just head pops up
Yeah.
there, I'm like, oh, and then it comes crawling out with legs, and for a second I'm like, oh, what? Am I asleep? Am I dreaming?
I
But
wonder if they're trans.
I'm not as scared of that stuff as I used to be. But it doesn't freak me out as bad as it did. But I'll tell you what.
No, man. When I was a kid, I stayed outside all the time, and I was constantly finding things that were interesting, like mole crickets. You know, mole. You ever see mole crickets?
You play with mole cricket?
Man, I love them things. They're so much fun. You get in there and have a strength contest with them mole crickets with them big old feet on them where they dig with.
Yeah.
And if you press in on them, they'll press out on them. So
So
they're just fun.
you're
I
out
used
there
to-
molesting mole crickets
Yep,
as a
that's
kid.
it.
All right.
That's it.
You ever fish one?
That explains some
No,
things.
I bet it'd probably catch fish though.
I bet it would.
And then we'd catch the cicadas.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, you catch a cicada. You got those big old eyeballs on either side. Well, you take a piece of sewing thread and make you a little harness and tie it right behind his eyes, and you can sit there and fly that thing around like a. He'll take off, and you got a piece of thread on there, and you just go around in circles. That's what I did as a kid. That was.
Now
So
they're playing
you-
video games
That's
and
cool.
pretending to be.
So Miss Johnson
cicadas
took
and
you to the
creatures.
TG&Y, and you wanted one of them airplanes that you
Yeah.
that you fly around.
We
in
didn't
there.
have none of them.
Oh
We
man,
had-
Yeah,
those
you
little
got a
those
cicada
little
and a
wind
piece
up
of
balsa
string.
airplanes and the gliders and stuff. That was the thing back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
man.
my cousin had one of them airplanes that
Oh,
had,
yeah.
you put the little gasoline or the nitro fuel
those,
in there and
yeah.
crank
Yeah.
it up with a string on it.
I had one.
Took that thing right out the box.
Huh?
Me and him took that thing out of the box, put it together. We get everything all fired up, cranked that thing up, and crashed it in about 3.5 seconds. Tore it all to pieces, and there it went.
Let me
I
tell you,
never
Christmas
could
was
get
over.
mine to run right. I never could get it to run right. That thing, I love it. I was going to play it. Had the string and the hand controller and got out there and I don't know what I was going to do. I was trying to do it in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
On Decatur Street in Marion. I got out there and tried. Had a little spring on the propeller where you
Yep.
put the fuel in it and you pull it back and then let go. And after I hit my fingers 2 or 3 times trying to get it to crank, and finally I don't know why it didn't run. It's kind of like we had this.
He's putting lighter fluid in it, probably not there.
No, I put the fuel that came with it.
Now let me tell you.
Nowadays, I'd have got it to crank or blow up because I'd have kept, well, I wonder if this will work. I wonder if that'll work. I finally just gave up. I don't even know what happened to it.
Right.
My daddy bought me, or Santa Claus one year, brought me what was called a visible V8. It was a plastic V8 motor model that you put it together and then it'll run.
Yeah.
You know, like batteries just had a motor in it. It would just run. You could see the cylinders and all that stuff. Well, me and Daddy were doing it together, and I get impatient. And Daddy was in there. We put a few pieces together, and he went to watch TV, and I got impatient, and I went in there. He goes, "Don't you be in there working on that thing. You'll glue it shut." I'm like, "Oh, whatever." I'm stuck some stuff together. I glued that sucker still. So it was a visible
non-working
piece
model.
of junk, yeah. And he got mad at me and didn't help me with it no more. And I'm like,
Well, he
yeah,
told you.
I learned a lesson.
In his defense, he told you.
He told me, Sean, like, don't touch that, son. It's hot, and you do it anyway. Don't touch that fence, son. It'll shock you, and you do it anyway. I learned a lot of hard lessons.
Got to know.
That's how I got into drone flying, was with airplanes, model airplanes.
Yeah.
I got some good stories that on the next segment.
Well, all right. Well, let's vet those on the break and make sure they're okay for radio. We'll be right back in just a minute. And we're back.
We are.
So we have vetted all the content.
Well, not really, because he just told us he had some. But we did tell him.
Well, we laid out some ground rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, we pretty much. So I'm
So
not
now
gonna
he
be-
doesn't know what he's going to
So
say.
you started out. So you have the radio controlled airplanes
I'll
that you
get that in
have
a
that are
second.
radio controlled.
I just want to let y'all know I'm not going to be here next week. I'll be in Mexico. Which reminds me, do you know why the Mexican took antidepressants?
No.
So he could control Hispanic attacks.
Now, I didn't know we were having a dad's joke section now.
Yeah.
We're going to do dad jokes.
So yeah,
I did not come prepared, but my dad jokes just kind of pop in my head as I'm talking.
Uh-huh.
They're situational. They're not planned out. If you said, Charlie, tell a dad joke, I could not do it right now. I couldn't remember one. But through the course of my day, my life around my family, they just constantly roll off the tongue.
Go ahead.
I'm not like JD. JD can remember jokes he heard when he was 3 and retell them.
Oh, yeah.
I could say,
He can
JD,
recite
do the
the
rest of the
entire
show.
Jerry Clower
I was supposed to say,
monologue.
do the rest of the show and do nothing but Jerry Clower, and for the next 45
Oh, yeah,
minutes, that's all we would hear, and it would be funny.
Yeah.
And I've been watching him on YouTube a little bit lately, and it's bringing back some memories. Bringing back some memories, man. Go ahead.
Remote control airplanes.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I got into drones. Is I built and flew remote control airplanes. Been doing it for years, and nowadays they're
He was
electric.
just trying to get one big enough he could get in.
I got one that pretty much could, but they've been for years. They were that gas mixture,
Nitro fuel,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
a nitro fuel. When you put it in, it's got a distinct smell to it, and they're you had a battery with a radio, and you had a radio and then an engine and a throttle, that sort of thing. Well, that's changed now. It's all electric. But when I first got into it, I was living downtown as a prosecutor, and closest place to fly one was Leon High School baseball field in that area.
Down
the
that
football-
hole down there, yeah.
Yeah, down that hole. So one day I went down there, and I'd got me a new one. I'd built it, and I was going to take it off, fly it around. And these are radio-controlled frequency modular FM radios. Some guy comes by on Tennessee Street.
With the CB radio and a 108-inch whip, pushing about 250 watts on a linear.
I don't
where
know
this
what
is
it
going.
was.
That was me. That was me.
But
That was redneck cell phones there.
I did hear some noise. Go boom, 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 boom. You know how you hear those? And it vibrates you thing, and that thing reversed the controls of my remote control airplane. And there was a baseball game going on.
Incoming!
And that thing went down in left field. I mean, it looked like a kamikaze. And it shattered into pieces. And I got my buddy over there who's another prosecutor. He left.
I bet he did.
And I'm trucking out. They had to call timeout, and me truck out there in center field, gather up the pieces of that airplane.
Fred's trying to get over the fence and can't climb the fence because he's too short.
Went under.
He looks like
He went under.
like Durf out there trying to get over.
No, it was a chain link fence, and I had some baggy shorts on, and it caught a hold of them and ripped them a little bit. And so now I'm out there trying to hold my shorts on, picking up an airplane and getting out of there. It was pretty embarrassing.
I would, Fred, I'll be honest with you. I would have laughed my rear end off at you and would not have helped. Would have stood there and watched the whole thing.
I probably wouldn't have been as big of a chicken as his buddy that took off and left.
No,
I'd
I
been
wouldn't have left.
I know that guy. He asked me to come here and watch.
I would be rolling on the
Nothing
ground
to do with
laughing,
it.
pointing at him. And he's probably the one that went in it and switched some wires before he took off just to mess
So,
with it.
y'all are talking about comedy and jokes and stuff. Y'all remember the Carol Burnett show?
Oh, yeah, I've been watching it lately.
Harvey Korman.
Oh, yeah.
And Tim
Conway.
Conway. If
Oh,
that
yeah.
ain't reincarnated Tim Conway right there.
I'm telling you,
Dorf on golf, Dorf on basketball.
I can't watch it without seeing Fred.
I can't either.
Dorf on
That's kind of
airplane.
why I watch it, because I'm laughing thinking about Fred and the misadventures of Fred Conrad, Esquire.
There's
You know,
this elephant and
well, you need to write a book.
elephant. There's these two midgets.
Oh, there was these Siamese elephants, and
and
they were joined
with
with
Joined
and
at
instead
the
of going, "Woo," they could only go.
Well, the funniest part about all them old shows like that is, I mean, they're trying to do a routine and keep. They just
They can't.
That show was famous for the people involved just completely losing it.
All right.
And then you had Vicki Lawrence over there as part of the show, and she could stay in character even though she was cracking up. And when she played Mama,
Yeah.
from Mama's Family,
Yeah.
and she would just come out and say some of the off the wall, just
Oh, and you couldn't hold
straight
it.
drive.
She'd end up cursing sometimes. Just
Well, they did. They had to bleep her a few times.
Oh yeah. That was funny. And the thing was that she was younger than Carol Burnett. And
by a
in the
lot,
series,
yeah.
she was supposed to be her mama, but in real life, she was much younger. So, but yeah, man, I tell you,
We don't have good TV
I
shows
saw
like that
Tim
anymore.
Conway and Harvey Korman in a version of The Odd Couple
Oh gosh.
live, and they were just like they were on the Carol Burnett show, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, and it's sad that we don't have television like that anymore.
we
I mean,
don't.
there's just
That's
not.
right.
It doesn't exist
I
anymore.
mean, you watch Saturday Night Live, and you're like, I don't get it.
It's all political.
What's the joke here?
Yeah, I know. It's sad that we don't have that anymore.
I mean, you go back and you look at reruns of Johnny Carson and Rodney Dangerfield, and those kind of. They're hilarious, and you look at late night TV today, and you're like, "What is this?"
Well, I laugh at on this Saturday Night Live. I laugh at the Michael Che and whatever the other guy is.
they read each other. They write it for each other.
When they
and
do
get-
the joke swaps,
Yeah.
that's funny. That's funny because then that's the only time you can watch comedy that leans racist without the white guy getting in trouble for saying it, because the black guy wrote the joke and handed it to him, and he didn't know what it was going to be until he said it. That's funny because just watching it now, they lean far left politically, and their jokes pick on the right, but they're still funny, and I can laugh at stuff from the other side. I mean, but that's the thing. Remember when like late night show Johnny Carson, you made fun of everybody.
Whoever was president.
Whoever was in
Sure.
office, you made fun of them, and so we'll get. Lord help us. We get President Kamala Harris in office next year, and then those late night show hosts will go on there and they won't
touch
pick
a
on
joke
her.
on her.
They'll still be picking on Trump.
Oh yeah.
They'll pick on her because they've gone so far to the left.
Yep.
So I've got to this point where I just don't watch network TV. I'll turn on the news every once in a while just to watch the local news.
Yeah.
So I can see what's going on. I just happened to catch there's a segment. There's a training company over around the Funiac Springs. It's too far out of the area to affect our business over here. And one of the Panama City news shows last night, it says, well, firearms training is blah, blah, blah. I said, this is interesting. I actually started paying attention to TV. And there's a female deputy sheriff over there and her husband who have women only and men only classes, which we would not do. They sometimes turn out that way, but we don't advertise in that way. And I was watching, and my first think's always to kind of go, whatever. They're not us. They're actually pretty good, in the classes and the things they say and the things they were doing. I was, and so you catch stuff like that on the local news. So we're not the only game in the world. We are kind of in this area. I think we certainly walk amongst the best, if not the best. But as we don't want to. We want to build up other people too. But you only get that if you watch local news. You only know what's going on with some. Now I don't care about half of it because it's some Panama City housing project permitting process. It's not whatever.
You're not interested in the permitting process?
I don't care what they're doing down there.
I
don't much care about Tallahassee anymore when it comes to what's going on in town because I've given up and moved out of town because it's just not.
Well, so we were sitting down at the supper table this week, and school starts back Monday for Leon County,
Yeah, and Jackson and Gaston and everybody.
Well, I didn't know. School starts back Monday. And my daughter's in Commissioner Brian Welch's history class at Child's High School.
Oh, is he still
that'd be
teaching? I thought he.
Yeah, I was
My
like,
son had him. I mean,
yeah, I was like hot dog. So
he's pretty good.
If he doesn't like what the principal does, he goes, "I'm going to go to school." No, I am the school. No, I'm a county commissioner.
county commissioner,
I'm
yeah.
a county commissioner, right?
But no, I was tickled death. I think a lot of Brian. And he's a good guy, and he
is.
He really is. He's my county commissioner for my
mine
district,
too.
and
he's eyeball deep in all that mess that goes on. But he
I
does what he can.
I texted him last night. I said, "Hey, watch out for that Johnson girl. Going to be in your second period class now." I said, "She's a mess."
Now he's a good guy. My son had him at Child's, and he really liked him as a teacher.
Well, I'm a big fan of history, so I hope he.
I never would have known. I mean,
I can't forget it. I mean, what do you think about all the stuff going on in the UK?
That's pretty interesting.
If y'all hadn't kept up with that, it might be one of them things you want to Google and read about. But there's a huge movement.
Well, it's all started because of they don't. It's going to happen here because of our border. Because what they've done is they've let people come in to their country
that aren't culturally the same as them.
And they're not willing to assimilate, and they're not willing to change their language or learn their culture, and they're changing the culture.
Well, they've taken over whole neighborhoods, and they don't respect local laws and law enforcement, and they have their own. That's been going on for years since all the exodus from the Middle East.
It's coming to a head. Let's just say in England right now, and there's been violent protest and riots and burning of the streets by the right wing, by the people that won't. That kind of align with our thoughts.
Because they're seeing their country change without them being able to do anything about it, and they're standing up. Now, you can consider that a number of different things. It's intolerant, it's racist, it's all these kinds of things. You can say all that, but the fact is they've been sitting there since the dawn of time, and now they're being, we don't really have that argument here because we conquered this country and took it over and populated it. But over there, pretty much that's the way it was.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. And we're back. So, anyway, finishing up on the UK stuff. Yeah, we were talking about on the break, so I never really remember what we talked about on the break and what we talked about here. But yeah, what you're seeing is you've got the England, the UK, and all that area that since it was populated by human beings, it's pretty much been the same strain of folks there. And they traveled the globe and built an empire.
They were the colonizers.
Yeah, they colonized the world, including the United States, and they were rebuked over hundreds of years again, which is what created the United States. Now we're close allies and friends now. But there was a time, and most of the founding principles of our country, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our Declaration of Independence, was all in opposition to them and their ideas.
One of the big issues over there now is what Fred and I were talking about being so terrifying is that they're putting people in jail for thinking and speaking differently or having a different opinion.
Yeah, and
it's
conservative speech is being called hate speech, and people are being imprisoned for saying we don't like cultures coming in here and not assimilating.
Right, that's hate speech.
But what happens when you start doing that is that the right will take back over the government. It's just a matter of time.
What happens is what is happening over there right now, which for them is a violent revolt where they're fighting with the government over there as much so as they can, but they don't really have.
They don't have any guns.
They don't have the tools to do it.
They don't have any guns.
Unfortunately for them.
Yeah.
No, but you've got a certain segment of society here that would just as soon imprison you for speaking out against them.
Except that we have guns.
Yeah. I mean, but
there's a whole lot of
I don't know if you heard this, Congressman Jamie Raskin, you know who he is? All right, so this guy comes out last week and says, if Trump gets elected, we're going to block the election and prepare for civil war. That's from a U.S. congressman said that last week.
Yeah, and that's the side that doesn't have any guns.
Yeah.
You know,
Numbers wise,
Yeah.
they're a whole lot. They're way behind.
Well, if they
They're-
get in
they're-
control of the government, they will, and that's going to be a problem.
yeah, but here's the problem: is they'll control segments and leadership, but there's a lot of people that are in the military that are hardcore conservative. Now you'll get a lot of liberals in there that are running some of the feel good stuff and the kitchens and the mess hall and all that kind. But the operators, the people that are actually the tip of the spear, their butts are conservative, hardcore, patriot. They are America all day long, and we know them. We know them. We're friends with them. We've dealt with them our whole life. Those people aren't going to. Now, here's the bad part. It's not like they're going to say, "All right, this is a multiple option A or option B." There's going to be the majority of all of us are going to be somewhere in the middle. Right now, there are people in this country that would go to revolution today.
Oh, yeah.
If they were told, "Hey, this is the thing to do," they're gonna arm up and run out. They're already armed and armored. I mean, I got all my stuff, but you got to get me past a certain point, and that point's going to be different for everybody. But when that starts to happen, it's going to have this cascading effect where you're going to see. Mr. History Guy, in the Revolutionary War, what was it when they fired the first shots and all that stuff?
Lexington and Concord.
Yeah, when something like that happens, somebody's going to say, and it'll be a point. It'll be a point where we go, all right, enough's enough.
Yeah.
Let me get my family squared away.
There were
and
actually
let's
in the
go.
Revolutionary War. There were several of those. There were several of those events that we all have heard about. You had the Boston Massacre. You had the Tea Party, but it was based on the 2% tax. You know, I look at what we pay in
Look at
tax
what we pay now. Yeah.
We
Look
went
at
to
what
war
our
over 2%
forefathers went to
tax.
war over a 2%
Well, our forefathers
tax.
would look at what we do today and they go, "Y'all lost a long time ago."
Yeah,
What are you talking
you've been
about?
lost a long time ago. But yeah, there's always it's usually never one single event. It's rare for it to be World War I, where you had the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. But an assassination caused everything was already lined up and everybody's on fire to go to war anyway. That was the single tipping point that started it.
Imagine if the
And we're
assassination
exactly
attempt
where I
a
was.
couple of weeks ago.
Exactly where I was going with that, Fred. Is that's what scared me the minute I got the text message sitting there at Osaka eating my sushi, and I get this text message that Trump was shot on the stage in Pennsylvania, and I was like, I got to hurry up and finish this fish and get to the house because I don't know where this is going to go real
Did
quick.
you have the Japanese cowboy serving you?
No, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Gosh,
All right, we'll be back in just a minute. We're back. So for those of you in the Tallahassee radio market, you probably have missed the bottom of the hour segment, but it's on our streaming on all of the streaming platforms where we are, which is like all of them.
And it was a good 5 minutes. You probably want to go back.
Yeah,
get
and
up.
so picking up on that, JD said something during that segment about societal behaviors and a tipping point. Now, that was dead on. There's a book written by a guy named Malcolm Gladwell, and he wrote a book called The Tipping Point. And what he talks about, and his definition of a tipping point, is when societal changes, behaviors, norms, things build and build and build and build, and you're right on the cusp of change, and then all of a sudden something happens and it tips. The same thing in a business like ours. You know, we were sitting around selling memberships back in the day, trying to build a business, and all of a sudden it just exploded, and we looked around and went, "Holy cow! How did we get where we are?" And that's what change. That's when massive change occurs. Is when something reaches a tipping point. Now you look, and it's no different than. Anyway, so you look at what's going on in society and our world, and certainly our country and our here in the United States today, with immigration, with everything else, we're people not liking each other. We're not getting any. We're no better than we were when Trump got elected the first time. Through 2 administrations, all we've done is get further and further apart. We're waiting on a tipping point to tip the scales in one direction or the other, and then things are going to explode. It's not going to be pretty. Now, and I've been teaching a lot of active shooter lately. I taught some at the school the other day. I've taught 2 seminars for civilians, and we talk about, and Paul said something about people wanting to take our guns and do all this, and that's true. So there are predators in our society There are predators. There are evil people. There are people that take advantage of others. I'm not talking about people that siphon gas out of your car. I'm talking about mean, violent, evil people.
Right.
So there are predators, and they have the capacity for violence, and they have the propensity for violence. So they're likely to do violence, and they're capable of doing violence. And then you have the prey. There's the predators, and then there's the prey. The prey are peaceable citizens in our society that loving, easy, whatever. They're the people that carry themselves not necessarily in a certain manner. They're quiet. They may scream and yell sometimes, but the fact is if you stomp your foot, they're basically people who are afraid. They're the sheep, and then there's a wolf. Okay, the prey has no propensity for violence. They're not capable of it, and they certainly don't have the propensity for it. They don't have the mindset to commit violence, and they certainly don't have the ability to commit violence. But then there is a class called the protector. The protector. This is the sheepdog. So you've got predator, prey, and protector. Now the protector class can be anything, anybody with the right mindset. It doesn't have to be military, it doesn't have to be law enforcement, it can be a school teacher who won't let one kid bully another. That protector class does not have the propensity or the likelihood to commit violence, but it does in fact have the capacity to commit violence. It can commit violence. People like us can and will very easily. JD and I've talked about this a lot before. We're just below the surface of our somewhat calm demeanor.
I'd say I'm jovial.
But I know just beneath the surface of that, there's the capacity for intense violence.
Extreme.
And it's just a flipping a switch. One of our buddies that teaches one time, he said, just flip the switch. So it's just like flipping a switch. There's a tipping point to that. I've seen it from you. And I know it exists, but I also never sometimes I concern myself with it when I hear I can see it coming. It happens in airports sometimes too. I'm like, sir, you're going to need one more padlock on that gun case before you can fly it. And JD's like, really? Well, there's a hole there. Well, I got a hole in my rear end too. I got to stick one in there because So he never actually said that, but I was expecting it to come out of his mouth. There's padlocks in the vending machine over there. You'll need to go buy another one. He looks at me and I go, I got it. So you've got three different kinds of people, and now something to understand about that is that the prey, those people that don't want us to have the ability to defend ourselves, they're afraid of the wolf. Okay.
Rightfully.
They're afraid of the predator.
They're rightfully afraid of the wolf, yes.
They are afraid of the protector. They're afraid of the sheepdog. And why?
Because of the teeth.
Because they don't understand this. They don't understand the mindset. It's a foreign concept to them because their brains aren't wired this way. They aren't wired to protect themselves, to have the tools to protect themselves. They think that if they give up their teeth, that the wolf won't come around. They're more worried about They want to empower the sheepdog, the protector, to protect them from the wolf, but they don't want the wolf, the protector, to have any teeth either. They want to take away our teeth because they don't understand the mindset, and they resent us and they hate us because we can stand on our own 2 feet. We're the ones that they think bully them around and push them around, and all we want to do is to protect them. All right. Yep. So now the wolf is also afraid of the protector, of the sheepdog. Why? Because he does understand us. He knows what we are about. So when we are around, the wolf doesn't come calling.
He doesn't feel all that comfortable in his environment
because
anymore.
He knows that we will bite his rear end.
Right.
That's what we're about. And the thing is a lot of the things you see happening in society today are based on that premise.
That explains right there why in some of these bigger
urban
cities
areas,
where they have no guns, there's more gun violence than in anywhere else.
Because
the pickings are easy.
That's why you
disarm the protectors.
You go into any state and you look at the big population cities, they're always going to be blue. They're always going to be riddled with crime because they do the same thing over and over again. They elect the same people over and over again. You look at Chicago.
They pull all of the resources into the city, so they get all of the people who are dependent on those resources in there, and then they basically enslave them by giving them money and resources, and they keep them on that leash. But you got to vote for them. You got to vote them into power. We're going to give you, but you got to come in here and vote for us and keep us in power. And they're pulling the wool over their eyes. and hiding the facts from them. And basically, and that's why you see exactly what you're talking about. These big cities that just there's so much disruption and so much violence.
And that's why
it's coming here. And let me.
Of course, it's here.
If you take a look, I don't know if you follow Steve Stewart with Tallahassee Reports. He's got an article out today. There's this group in town called the Tallahassee Community Action Committee. They're a bunch of progressive socialists. They identify as socialists.
Yeah, they've been here.
All right, here's a tweet they posted about 13 officers, TPD officers that were just hired. This is what they posted. Yay, excited for 13 more paid stooges to waste our city's public funding. Maybe they can work with a war criminal again, just to spice things up.
What?
Yeah, these are the people that want us to be united. They're talking about Chief Rebel.
No, they're talking about the war criminal. What they're talking about is that TPD hired a tactics operator, a former military guy to teach the TAC team tactics.
He was
he was accused of war crimes,
but was
when
exonerated.
He was in the military. But he was found not guilty. All that stuff. He was accused of war crimes when he was in the military, and these people lost their minds about it because they hired the guy. So,
and that's this group. This is how they view this progressive. And you got these people holding seminars and commission and what do you call those things? Forums, conferences, those kind of things. Well, guess who's going to them? You got City Commissioner Jack Porter,
Jeremy Matlow,
candidate Dot Inman Cruz going. They're going to these. They are allied with these people, and that stuff is creeping into our local government. And your typical old Southern Democrat that Blue Dog, Alan Boyd type, who were fairly conservative on most issues that would disagree, fiscal stuff, but you could reason with those folks. You can't reason with a socialist.
No, and here's the thing: the difference. Some of the difference that Charlie was talking about between the predator and the prey kind of thing is you don't ever truly know in government what their ulterior motive is to disarming the citizens. We don't know if it's just so they can, keep you whatever, or if it's historically speaking in countries all over, in places all over the planet, you've had government come in or the government get elected and then come in there once they get power under the name of safety and security, disarm the public.
That's the first step.
Once the public is disarmed, they can become the worst dictator on the planet, kill half of their population, put people in concentration camps and all this stuff in the name of safety and security. It's what Adolf Hitler did. It's what Mao did. It's what over and over again.
Look at the history of Russia. I mean,
communism. Stalin did it.
We like socialism, we like communism. Yeah, I don't think you will unless you're the ruling class, and they want to be the ruling class. And we'll be right back. And we're back.
Fred ain't no sheepdog. He's a Jack Russell Terrier. He bites you on the ankle. I tell you what, Jack Russell Terriers, if them things weighed 100 pounds, that'd be the baddest thing on the planet, buddy.
I have to keep mine on a leash in the boat because if he sees a gator, he would jump out after him. He'd be gone.
My granddaddy used to fish with Pawpaw used to have a little miniature dachshund, little wiener dog named Penny, and Penny was the most fearless 9-pound dog you have ever seen. And we get up there on the lake back before the days of gator hunting when that lake Seminole was just you could walk across the gators to go across the lake, and she'd get up there and she'd see a gator and just lose her mind and start barking and everything, and every gator in the area that heard it would turn that way and start coming to the boat. It's like, dog, you got the hood, she gonna get us ate. How about the fishing? Has it been?
It's been pretty good, especially early and late, for sure. And, last week we talked about some of those frogs, and I brought some back because that's been working. Definitely top water right now. But I brought this is one bait that I didn't get to talk about last week, but this is called a Zoom horny toad. I don't know if you can see it there. That's what it's called. I thought Mr. Fred would like that. And this is how you rig it, because it works. This
named it after Fred.
He likes anything.
Actually, I brought them for you.
All right. I'm going to zoom these horny.
So, Fred, you got this is a This is a
You be careful. That's got
that's
hooks
a
in it,
spro
Fred.
popping frog, and this is a pack of Zoom horny toads. I want to show the folks how you rig this. I like to use a double.
I can rig a
hook.
horny toad. Don't worry about that.
But you have a keeper on here. See, Fred? And
Yeah.
That's what Fred needs is a keeper.
Yeah.
that's right. Bend it back like that.
Hold on, let me see.
Push it all the way through, and just let the points stick in like that. See
Yeah,
that?
let me see that keeper there. Okay, so what you did was you went through. Oh, you put a
Screwed
keeper
into the
in.
top.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
For
Screwed
those in
into
the radio listening audience, they
Yeah.
are playing with hooks and frogs and horny toads over here.
Ain't nothing like a horny toad.
Yeah.
And they do catch fish. Now that's something you'll throw out and just
They
reel
catch a
in.
lot.
It's simple. So simple.
throw it
Fred
out.
can do it. Just throw it out and reel it
Reel
back.
it in. Reel
So
it
that
in.
is a
So you
a
don't bounce him. You just
Nope, just reel it in.
Just steady.
so,
those
so,
little feet
so what
in.
kind of hook is that?
That's actually a they call it a double toed hook. That's hooks made by owner. There's several different companies. Berkeley Fusion has a
For those of
toad
you
hook.
listening, what this is
Two big
lar-
worm hooks
Yeah.
welded together, basically.
Yes.
Two
So
big,
it's like they're
Yes,
like
the worm
next to
hook-
each other in about a 10-degree spread, so that they're
the worm hook comes.
And it's
the
weighted.
hook comes with the keeper.
Yes. Now these don't have weight on them. I actually took some lead wire, but that's even hard to get now, and wrapped it around the hook to add a little bit of weight. So when you throwing it without any kind of weight on it, it sometimes will roll over. But this will when you start to reel it, it immediately sits straight.
So, what brand of hook do you recommend here?
Definitely right now, the Berkeley Fusion hook.
The Berkeley Fusion.
And that's what this is right
double
here.
hook. Okay.
And I'd get on that size bait on the Zoom horny toad, a 4/0 is perfect.
4/0.
Yep.
All right.
But that just swims across the top of the water and goes blue, 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 blue.
That's
blue
right.
across the
These
top of
little
the water.
they're
He's gonna go a little
there's
under the
all-
water, isn't he?
No, you
No,
reel it
you
fast
just-
enough,
you
it
just
stays
hold
on
your
top.
rod up
Okay,
about 10 o'clock and just get it coming on the surface.
All right. So, what about just a steady reel or
Hold your
going
rod
fast?
up. Hold your rod up. Just get it coming. It'll just go across the top of the water in these little feet. And it has a unique sound. There's a lot of different kind of frogs like this. They got some with like these right here.
Now, are these going to bite in open water or pads or?
I would throw that over the top of cover. Anytime you got any cover. This one floats, and these kind of legs here have it's a different sound. It's more of a bob.
looks
bob,
like
you know what I mean?
Bender on the cartoon.
This
Yeah,
one
yeah.
has more sounds like a shad.
That one
But
looks
that
like
will catch fish too. Now you can sit that in one spot and
that
pop
looks
it.
like my feet when I try to walk.
Basically,
That'll catch.
basically
About the same size,
if
too.
a bass is hungry and you make enough
That's
racket
right.
and movement on top of the water, he's liable to eat it, no
That's
matter
right.
what color it is. If they're hungry and they'll hit anything that moves.
I had a customer a couple of weeks ago throwing this frog, and I thought she was working it a little slow. I said, "You might want to speed that up." Then, told her that twice, and she never paid no attention to me. And she threw out there again, and it was just sitting there and caught like a 7-pounder, her biggest bass of her life. I was like, "Just do what you want to do."
You got
There
this.
you go.
You go
That's,
ahead.
That's what women do anyway.
That's right. That's right. And women seem
Yeah, tell me about it. Jeez.
it's amazing, guys. Women always, if a husband and wife comes, a wife always catches more fish. Always.
So here's what happens when it comes to firearms training. The women listen.
Yeah,
And translate what you tell them to do into action, and the
Yes.
man is sitting over there with his ego and all his pride, going, "I got this. I ain't worried
Yes.
about it." She'll end up out shooting him.
Yes, exactly. I had a man come when I first talked to him. I said, "Sir, I was kind of kidding." I said, "Your wife. That's great. You're bringing." He goes, "I want to come down, but I'm bringing my wife." I went, "What?" I said, "Oh, your wife's going out fishing." He said, "No, that blank she won't." I was like. So anyway, he came. I said, "Ma'am, just throw your bait out there. Just relax. We was fishing a Cinco. Just fish. Just enjoy yourself." I told the man, I said, "Sir, just slow down. You need to fish it slow." She caught a 4-pounder, then a 3-pounder, then he caught a 7-pounder. And that man, I don't think his bait ever touched the bottom, Charlie. And I told him, his wife's catching fish. He ain't catching.
So
She's
I got a
just
question.
enjoying herself.
Did you get a tip?
Actually, they came back again, and because after that, he said, "Man, after the experience we had, me and my wife go fishing all the time. We're back closer than we ever been."
Yeah,
It's
that's right. You got the
really
tip 'cause
incredible.
His wife,
Yeah.
It was awesome.
If
awesome.
he'd have caught more fish than she did, you wouldn't have got
Never
a
seen
return.
him again.
Yeah.
She was willing to come back because she wanted to prove. That's
Well,
That was
See,
awesome.
we do that in the gun range too, because if we can get Mama wanting to bring the family and the husband
That's
to the
right.
range, they're coming to the range.
And what you were talking about in the earlier. I'm thinking of situational awareness. Because when I'm guiding, I'm not fishing much. I'm watching my electronics. I'm observing the water because I want my customers to catch fish. But so I'm looking for situations, and that is so what you're talking about in protecting yourself. You go into a restaurant. What are you?
Situational awareness.
Everybody really needs to go through that.
Well, we talk about condition white, yellow, orange, red, and condition black. And that's one of the things we talk about in our classes. Is condition white is a level of complete unawareness.
Now,
and not
what's
knowing
the
going around
cost of
you.
those classes, Charlie? What do
No,
you?
we do the ones with right to bear. Our insurance, our legal
Prepaid legal
plan. Those, if you come to one of ours, they don't cost you anything.
Really?
All right. So we do those all the time. We send them out to our email list and call the shop here, and we can get you in the loop. We've got a Carry with Confidence class coming up here in a couple weeks, and we just did this week. I did one in Dothan and one in Tallahassee here at the store for them on active shooter, and I cover all of the things that we've been talking about and more. We talk about physiological, psychological stress dynamics, how to breathe and get over some of the stress issues that happen during a fight. But those don't cost anything. We do those sponsored by Right to Bear, which, now that you bring it up, is the way to make sure that if you get the full family plan right now, everything,
multi-state.
They'll bond you out. They'll replace your weapons. You get some low-cost legal stuff like wills and different things like that, or some of that stuff's free for initial consults and stuff on that. And then you've got that's something they just added. It's like $380 a year for your entire family, everybody living in your household.
Really?
And that's everything, including multi-state protection, and that's all your criminal and your civil defense covered with no caps. And they used to have some limitations, but they don't anymore. The price did just go up a little bit, but I mean, just the individual plan is like $15 a month for one state.
Wow.
And they offer some free educational opportunities. One of them being these seminars that they sponsor. Right now, if you sign up for a family plan for 1 year, you actually use our code and you get 14 months for the price of 12.
Wow.
It's like, and you can call either one of our stores and our guys can get you signed up for it. But so, yeah, I mean, we don't charge for that. Now, our regular classes, we do individual training. We do our concealed carry class. I think we're $190, $200 for the concealed carry class now.
$190.
That includes everything. We can feed you lunch and all that good stuff. But ammo, guns, get to try a bunch of different guns. We give you eyes and ears because after COVID, when COVID came, nobody wanted to share eyes and ears anymore. You're hearing protection, eye protection. So we just bought a bunch of branded stuff, and now we just give you that in the class, and you get to keep it.
Right.
And and so, but then we do half-day classes. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff shows up on our calendars. It's been going on. We've got good qualified instructors, and
I've got my middle son took the concealed carry class. My youngest son told me the other day he wanted to take it, but I told him to take it, so he wasn't going to take it.
Well, I'll tell you, if anybody would like to answer any
He ain't getting a
questions
gun
about
until he
any of
does.
these baits I've been talking
Right.
about, they can follow me on Captain Paul Tire Fishing. They can instant message me any questions.
you have another show. Tell us about it real quick. Aren't you on the radio doing something else?
Yes, with the Big Bend Outdoor Show.
When is that?
That starts on Saturday and plays through the week. They record it on Thursday.
Okay, so Saturday.
And on X1.
What time?
It's at 10 o'clock, I do believe.
On what station?
X105.
Having to drag this out of
Yes,
you
sir.
now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wait a minute, you're going to be on the air at the same time as us?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, ours is on.
Better not listen to you then.
No, don't listen to him.
Never mind then. Been nice knowing you, Paul. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.